All right, so this episode, the final season of Game of Thrones, only 2 left. Oh, such a sad reminder. This episode starts off with the massive funeral from last week's episode, which no one could see. It was like, what's going on? It was really funny. Although, going back to that episode, I think I mentioned it before where I said that the cinematography kind of made sense because really there's no electricity in Winterfell or that whole realm. So in one sense, it made sense that it would be that dark during an episode called The Long Night. So, but anyway, in this episode, the funeral, the aftermath from that battle took place. Huge funeral, tons of dead bodies everywhere. You see a couple people like Dany mourning over Sir Friendzone, as Grace Randolph likes to call him, Jorah Mormont, and Jon Snow's paying his respects to Lady Mormont. And then you got a couple, of course, Grey Worm going over to the Unsullied, and then Tormund with the Wildlings, and so on and so forth. Sansa's crying over Theon. So it shows you a lot of the connections that some of these people had with all these dead characters over this many seasons. And so once you go up to the funeral, of course, you know, there's an after party after a funeral. So they have a big dinner at Winterfell Hall. And Tormund, Redbeard Tormund, he toasts Dany he toasts Dany. He toasts Dany for being, you know, for providing her forces or whatever. And then Dany toasts Arya as the hero of Winterfell, which is, I guess, fitting, of course. She did save the day. And then we get a bit of a drinking game from between Tyrion and Jaime, and Podrick's just kind of hanging out there, and Brienne. I guess it's more like a have you ever kind of game where they say something, and if that person hadn't done it, they drink, or I don't know, however the hell that game works. But anyway, Tyrion ruins it by sort of proclaiming that Brienne's never gotten laid before, and so that kind of brings an end to the game right there. And eventually, she and Jaime slay the night together. That is to say that they shag. Which I don't know if it felt like fan service, because a lot of people were like, they wanted to see that happen. So I'm not sure if that was fan service, but I guess it was set up fairly well in the previous season. So I got no gripes with that. And then Podrick Gendry, he gets promoted to Lord of Storm's End, from being just a regular old bastard, you know, metal worker, to having his own little plot of land and a couple people to rule over. So I guess that was pretty cool upgrade for him. Nice promotion. And then he, of course, he gets totally sprung off of Arya and is like, will you marry me after one night together? So, I mean, she's a hell of a catch, but she turns him down after saying what she's always said throughout the series is, I'm not a lady. So, nope. So that's not gonna happen. And she goes back to just shooting her arrows, which I guess is how she relaxes after killing the main antagonist of a show like this, which was kind of weird. But so she turns him down. Yeah, Brienne and Jaime get together. What else happened in that hall? Oh yeah, when Jon and Tormund is kind of ribbing Jon for, you know, riding a dragon and why they all follow him. Dany's looking on, and she looks a little bit uncomfortable with all the attention on the praise that Jon is getting. And so she's like, you know, it's not really my scene. You know, she gets up and she leaves. So, and before that point, you know, it looked like she and Sansa, sort of the ice started to melt, sort of the thaw between them. But that comes back later on when they're trying to create a battle plan for attacking King's Landing. And so we move on to where Jon and Dany are talking together. And even after finding out that their aunt and nephew, they still kind of make out. But then, you know, Jon, being the ever truthful and just, I don't know, honest guy or whatever, he breaks it off before they go any further. Dany tells him that, you know, she regrets ever learning about his heritage, and basically instructs him on what to do in order to not cause any more of a stir over who's supposed to be ruling the Iron Throne. and that she basically tells him, don't tell anyone, because right now it's just John, Danny, Sam Tarwell, Sam, and Bran are the only 4 people that know about it. So Danny tells him, hey, keep your mouth shut. Don't say nothing to nobody. And, I can become queen. You can do whatever you want, and there won't be any problems. But if you do tell anyone, there will be all kinds of uprisings. People will demand that you become king, and then maybe I'll have to fight them. Maybe I won't, but who knows? They'll want my head. She says it'll be a whole thing. So don't say anything. John, of course, raised by Ned Stark, he's a knucklehead. He's like, I gotta be honest. I gotta at least tell my sisters. Jane's like, no, don't tell your sisters. That's the worst thing you can do, because they will definitely tell someone, and the word will get out, and then ba 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 ba. He's like, well, I kind of got. She's like, no, you want a peace, keep your mouth shut, don't say anything. And then, of course, he leaves the scene with this kind of look like, I don't know if I did. And so they go on from there, and the next time it shows them, was it Grey Worm, Tyrion, Varys, John. I don't know if the Onion Knight was there. I think the Onion Knight was there. But anyway, they're planning out their battle plans in order to get to King's Landing and in order to take over it. And Tyrion keeps telling her, hey, don't sack the city you're trying to save. That's not going to be a very good look for the people that live in that city. If you come to rescue them, like you say you do, and I believe that you do, if you go about and just murder all of them, maybe a bit of a PR no, if you want them to follow your leadership later on down the road, and you don't keep getting sort of pretenders to the throne come after you. And so she's like, I'd rather do it my way, but whatever. And then she ultimately lands on the idea that, okay, well, if I'm not going to attack King's Landing up front, fine, we'll just give Cersei the opportunity to surrender. And that way, when I do attack King's Landing, at least the people will know that I made the effort, and this is all Cersei's fault that they're being massacred and slaughtered in the streets. So I guess that kind of shows that that Dany's become a bit more of a political mind. She's thinking in a bit more of a sneaky way, where it's like, well, I'm gonna make myself look like the hero and make my other opponent look like the worst thing on the planet, even though Cersei is the worst thing on the planet. But whatever. So they agree to that, and then everyone starts heading south. John takes the road. The road south, or he begins to leave for the road south, and then he starts saying his goodbyes to Tormund. And at that point, I was like, well, I guess John's gonna die in the next episode or by the end of the series, because just like with Ned and with Robb, and something that of course Sansa tells. Is it Sansa? Sansa tells Tyrion that her family doesn't have a good history of going down south, and so John tells his goodbyes, and Ghost makes another appearance. I think this is for the 3rd or 4th time, where he just had a bit of a scene. He's just kind of hanging out somewhere, and then he's gone for the rest of the show. So I don't know what's going on with Ghost. Why they keep doing that to him? But he's there now. You can see that he survived the last battle. And so John says goodbye to Sam, finds out that Sam's girl, I forget what her name is, she's pregnant again. And so that's a good thing. But yeah, definitely a lot of death flags for John, or Aegon at this point now. Definitely a lot of death flags are there. So he heads down to King's Landing, but not before, of course, telling Sansa and Arya about his heritage. And of course, they all met in the weirwood after the battle plans, and John basically said, we're gonna follow our queen's lead, and Arya and Sansa take him to the weirwood with Bran. Had a little discussion about we're the family, we can't trust her, blah blah blah. And so Bran looks off to John, is like, well, it's your choice. And of course, the two girls are like, what the hell's going on here? And so John tells cheat code Bran to tell them what's up. So now Sansa, Arya know as well about John's heritage, about him being a Targaryen. And so now they know. And when Sansa was talking to Tyrion about, about Jon and what he's gonna do once he gets to King's Landing, about the family's bad history, about going down there, she ultimately tells Tyrion also this secret. So, and it's, all right, man, I wonder what it's setting up. I really do. I wonder what it's setting up. So anyway, Tyrion eventually, on their way down to King's Landing via ships, looks like, he tells Varys, who I'd say has the worst reputation for keeping a secret, but then the best reputation for keeping a secret in the show, because he doesn't know how to keep things to himself. But when he's not keeping things to himself, he'll tell everyone, and everyone will know about it. So, and he even makes a comment himself how if only a handful of people know it's a secret, but 8 or more is now information at this point, and Varys is really good at selling information and handling information. So I don't know how he's gonna play with that, but eventually on their ship ride down there, Rhaegal, who was injured from the last fight, he gets shot down, taken out by 2 of the dragon arrows, one in the chest and then one through the throat. And I think they did that, the showrunners that is, I think the showrunners did that strictly for the story purposes, because even though the Dothraki have been minimized and the Unsullied have lost a lot of people, Dany's army is still overpowered as hell. They're still, with the dragons, I mean, they're still super OP. So I think them taking out Rhaegal at least kind of tips the scales and makes it a little bit more even, But at the same time, Euron's ships use those same dragon arrows to destroy Dany's fleet. And then somehow in the melee, while everyone was abandoning his ship, Varys, Tyrion, Grey Worm, and a bunch of other people make it to shore. But Missandei, who left before they did, before their ship was destroyed, somehow she got captured by Cersei. I don't know how that worked out, but okay, whatever, I suppose. So once upon learning that of course, so now this Rhaegal being killed has of course made Dany even more just angry, just furious, right? Because she sees the dragons as her kids. So, as blasé as Cersei was eventually with Tommen, when Tommen died, she just didn't seem to care anymore. Dany's dragons getting killed in front of her like that has the same effect as Joffrey did on Cersei. So now Dany is incredibly furious because she already lost Viserion, the other dragon. She already lost that dragon to the Night King, and now Rhaegal has been killed by Euron. So all she has left is Drogon. So she's incredibly angry now, and having Missandei, one of her earliest and closest advisors, captured, by Cersei, not a good look. So she's fuming. She's flaming out at the ears, right? Mad. So they get down there, they go on the shore and whatever, and then they have to regroup, sort of, and they try to take another approach. And at this point, Grey Worm says, hey, we just attacked the castle head on, whatever. He's ready to go because his woman's been captured, so he's ready to go. And so Tyrion again, hey, pump the brakes, don't do anything rash, let's just wait for Jon to show up with his army and then we can try to talk. And Cersei, and basically Dany's like, I'm kind of beyond talking, but okay, I'll give it one more shot. And so, yeah, they try again, and basically Cersei tells Dany, F off. Even after Tyrion tries to bring out the humanity in Cersei, which at that point I was like, I don't know why you keep trying, Tyrion. You're a hopeless optimist at this point. You're like Jon Snow. You're a hopeless optimist. This is not the world for that. So she basically turns down Tyrion's offer for surrender, and she has Clegane kill Missandei by the old Ned Stark method of death in front of an audience, no less, with a contingent of the Unsullied down there in front of the King's Landing. So yeah, that was rough. But we see now that Dany, who thinks she's a savior, is the unstoppable force versus Cersei, who knows she's a monster but doesn't care how much wrong she does, as the immovable object. And so it's going to be difficult to see what goes down next week. The preview showed, you know, a bunch of glimpses. No, I don't think there was no narration this time, just a bunch of glimpses of action and, you know, people doing the and all these facial expressions that eventually mean whatever, you know, taken out of context like that. But it was an interesting episode. One of the things that I enjoyed, really, it's a more of a setup episode, this one, definitely for next week's and the final episode. But one of the things that I really liked was how concerned Tyrion and Varys were about who ends up getting on the throne and how each outcome might play out, if Jon's on the throne or if Dany's on the throne or if they're married together. And it was very interesting because Varys still is like, I'll put whoever's on the throne, whoever's good for the realm. If they're not good for the realm, I'm not going to support them. And I really like that. I really like it. That's really good. It really stuck to his character for this, you know, this whole entire storyline. Tyrion still believes in Dany, even though I think Dany she's gonna be too mad to think straight. I think she's gonna be like the Mad King, where she's just so angry and she's got the power to do all this stuff, and she's just gonna let loose. I think, you know, she's gonna play right into Cersei's hands unless Jon can somehow. Well, Jon gets there, of course, by the next episode. We saw him in the preview, but if he can't try to talk her down, sort of, you know, I don't know what's gonna happen. But now with so many people knowing the secret of Aegon now, how are they gonna handle that? How fast is that news gonna spread through King's Landing? Who knows? You know, Sansa's obviously gonna try to fight for that, for him to become the ruler of the throne. She's made that kind of clear in this episode. But we'll see. Only 2 episodes left. It's anyone's game right now, I guess. I thought Tyrion was gonna get killed. But oh yeah, the Rhaegal thing, Rhaegal falling into the water, I thought was another death flag for Jon Snow. So, you know, because he rode Rhaegal, and I don't know how that's gonna turn out. So that's gonna be weird to see if he dies or if Tyrion dies next week, because clearly Cersei doesn't care about anything. I don't know why she didn't kill him though. I don't know. But Jaime then left Brienne after they banged. He wanted to stay up in Winterfell, but then he left. And it was like, you know, he rattled off all the horrible things he's done for Cersei. And I thought at that point he was gonna be like, you know, well, I'm done doing things for Cersei. Time to do things for myself. But he was like, no, I'm just gonna go down there and defend her now. Or I think that's what he's gonna go do. He's gonna go defend her, because he was like, I pushed a boy out of a tree for Cersei. I almost slaughtered a bunch of women and children on River Run for Cersei. You know, so I think he's going back down to King's Landing to fight for Cersei. And of course, I can't forget about Bronn. You know, speaking of people sticking to their storylines, Bronn remains a mercenary who's just like, what can I get out of the deal? And he basically tells Tyrion and Jaime, hey, your sister paid me, or promised to pay me with a River Run if I come up here and I kill you. So, and then Tyrion reminds him of the bargain they made way back when. And he's like, well, you said if I told you about someone wanting to kill you, you'd pay me double. So what's double of River Run? And so Tyrion's like, well, Highgarden's the double of that. So I don't know how Tyrion's gonna deliver on any of that, but whatever, man. The only 2 episodes left. We'll see what happens in the 4th one next week. I gotta watch this again to see if I missed quite a lot, I'm sure, but I gotta watch it again just for entertainment's sake, because it was compared to last week, it was a very slow paced episode. Like I said, a lot of build up, a lot of setup. And and Arya and the Hound are back on their little, I don't know, good cop, bad cop, buddy road trip movie thing that they had going way back in season 4 or 5, I think. And yeah, they're both headed down to a King's Landing. So maybe Clegane Bowl's coming up. I think the only person down in King's Landing for Arya's list is Cersei. I think she's the last one on her hit list. So I don't think she's gonna kill Cersei though. I think that would make the story writing too fan servicey. That's not a word, but you get the idea. So I don't know. Don't know how that's gonna work out. Well, that's all there is for now. 2 episodes left. Oh boy, I want to see how it ends. All right, until then, Take it easy.